I went to check my lakeside cabin after a neighbor told me the lights had been on every night. I saw my son's car parked outside, so I waited and watched. 2 hours later, he came out carrying a large bag and threw it into the lake. When I saw what was inside, my whole body trembled with horror. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment where you're watching from. The call came at 7:30 on a Tuesday evening, just as I was finishing my dinner. Martha Hendricks, my neighbor up at Crystal Lake, had a voice tight with concern. "Tisha, I hate to bother you, but something odd is happening at your cabin. The lights have been on every night this week. I thought you should know." I set down my fork, my heart doing a small flutter. Every night? Without fail. Around 8 o'clock, someone arrives. The lights go on. Then, around 11, everything goes dark again. I wouldn't have noticed except Buster's been barking at the headlights coming up the mountain road. I thanked Martha and hung up, my mind already racing. The cabin had been locked up since July. It was now early October, and the lake community was mostly empty for the season. My husband Richard had passed away 3 years ago, and the cabin had been our refuge for nearly 40 years of marriage. These days, I rarely went up alone, but someone was going up there. Someone with a key. I lived in Millbrook, Pennsylvania, a town where everyone knew everyone's business, or thought they did. At 64, I'd learned that the most dangerous secrets were the ones people kept closest to home. My son Stephen was 32 now, married to Lauren for 5 years. They lived in a renovated farmhouse just 10 miles from my place, close enough that I saw them weekly, usually for Sunday dinner. The image of Stephen came to mind immediately when Martha mentioned the lights. He had a key to the cabin, of course. But why would he be going up there secretly, after dark, 3 times a week? I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I lay awake thinking about my son, about the way his shoulders had seemed to carry more weight lately, about how Lauren had grown quieter over the past year. They'd been trying to have a baby. I knew this because Lauren had mentioned it once, almost 18 months ago, with a brightness in her eyes that had since faded to something more guarded. "We're really hoping," she'd said then. "Stephen wants to be a father so badly." But since that conversation, neither of them had mentioned it again. And I, respecting their privacy, hadn't asked. Now I wondered what silence had been hiding. The next evening, I told my neighbor Betty I was going to visit my cousin in Pittsburgh. Instead, I packed a small overnight bag, threw in a thermos of coffee, and drove the winding mountain roads toward Crystal Lake. The October air had that sharp quality that meant winter wasn't far behind. Leaves crunched under my tires as I turned onto the private road that led to our cabin. I parked my car at the Hendricks place, 2 properties down, and walked through the woods. Martha had been kind enough to let me use her driveway, and she'd promised not to mention my visit to anyone. The pine trees filtered the fading sunlight into golden strips across the forest floor. I knew these woods like the lines on my own hands. The cabin came into view, a modest A-frame with a wide deck overlooking the lake, and there, parked in the small clearing beside it, was Stephen's silver Honda. My breath caught in my throat. So it was him. I crouched behind a thick oak tree about 50 yards from the cabin, feeling ridiculous and heartbroken all at once. What kind of mother spies on her own son? But something deeper than curiosity drove me forward. This was the instinct that had kept me awake for decades when my children were young. The same instinct that knew when something was wrong even before the phone rang. The cabin lights came on at exactly 8:07. I could see Stephen's silhouette moving past the windows. He seemed to be pacing. Then he disappeared into what I knew was the back bedroom, the room that had been Stephen's when he was a boy, where he'd spent countless summer nights reading by flashlight and listening to the loons call across the water. I settled against the tree trunk, pulling my jacket tighter. The temperature was dropping fast. I poured coffee from my thermos and waited, watching the cabin like it held answers to questions I hadn't yet learned to ask. 2 hours passed. My legs cramped. My back ached. I was about to give up, to walk down there and simply knock on the door and demand an explanation, when the cabin door opened. Stephen emerged carrying a large black garbage bag. Even from a distance, I could see it was heavy, packed full of something. He walked with purpose toward the dock, his shoulders hunched forward. The dock light had burned out last summer and hadn't been replaced, So he moved carefully in the darkness, his footsteps hollow on the wooden planks. Then he threw the bag into the lake. I heard the splash, saw the white spray of water catch the moonlight. Stephen stood there for a long moment, his head bowed, his hands on his knees as if he might be sick. Then he straightened, walked back to the cabin, shut off the lights, and drove away. I waited until his tail lights disappeared down the mountain road before I moved. My body was stiff from sitting so long in the cold, but adrenaline pushed me forward. I half ran, half stumbled to the dock, pulled out my phone, and turned on its flashlight. The water was dark and cold. The bag had sunk, but not far, maybe 8 feet down in the shallow water near the dock. I could see the black shape of it resting on the sandy bottom. I went to the shed, found Richard's old fishing pole, and spent the next 20 minutes trying to hook the bag. My hands shook. My breath came in short gasps. Finally, the hook caught on something and I dragged the bag toward shore, wading into the icy water up to my knees to grab it. The bag was heavy with water now, but I managed to haul it onto the dock. My fingers fumbled with the knot. When I finally got it open and shone my phone's light inside, my body went rigid. Children's toys, dozens of them. A stuffed elephant with a blue ribbon around its neck. A set of wooden blocks with letters carved into the sides. A mobile with tiny stars and moons. Baby clothes. Onesies in yellow and green. Small socks with grips on the bottom. A knitted blanket with a pattern of bears. Everything was new. Tags still attached. The clothes were sized for a newborn to 6 months. My hands trembled as I pulled item after item from the bag. A children's book about a caterpillar. A rattle shaped like a key ring. A tiny pair of shoes that would fit in the palm of my hand. These weren't just random purchases. This was a collection. A hope chest. A prayer made tangible. Stephen had been hiding these things, coming to the cabin to be with them. And tonight, he'd thrown them all away. I sat on the dock, water dripping from my jeans, holding a small yellow onesie that read, "Daddy's Little Star," across the front. I understood then what I was seeing. This was grief. This was the death of hope. My son and daughter-in-law had been trying to have a baby for over 3 years. Martha had said 3 times a week for months. How long had Stephen been coming here? How many nights had he sat in that cabin, surrounded by these things, praying for a child who wouldn't come? I gathered everything back into the bag, my mind racing. I would talk to him. Tomorrow. I would go to his house and we would have the conversation that should have happened months ago. I would tell him that I knew, that I understood, that... My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text message from Allison Stewart, Lauren's mother. Allison and I had a cordial relationship, though we'd never been close. She lived in Ohio, and we saw each other only on holidays. The message was short. "Tisha, have you heard from Lauren today? She's not answering her phone. Melissa says they had plans, but Lauren never showed up." Melissa, Lauren's younger sister. The one who'd moved to Millbrook last year to be closer to Lauren. The one who'd taken a job at the hospital where Stephen worked as a physical therapist. The one who'd become a constant presence in their lives. I texted back, "No, I haven't. I'll call Stephen and check." But something in my gut twisted. I looked at the bag of toys, at the cabin windows now dark and empty, at the lake that had swallowed my son's dreams. And I knew, with the certainty that comes from decades of motherhood, that something was very, very wrong. I pulled out the soaked items one more time, looking for anything else. At the bottom of the bag, wrapped in a plastic Ziploc, was a small journal. Stephen's handwriting covered the water-stained pages. I opened it to the first entry, dated 14 months ago. Came to the cabin today. Bought the first gift, a stuffed bear. Lauren doesn't know. I can't tell her how much I want this. She carries enough weight already. But here, I can hope. Here, I can pray. Here, I can imagine the child we'll have. I flipped forward, scanning entries. They became more desperate as the months wore on. 9 months now. The doctors say there's nothing wrong with either of us. But nothing's happening. Lauren cries in the bathroom. She thinks I don't hear. Melissa suggested we try acupuncture. She knows a specialist. Lauren seems willing to try anything now. Month 12. Lauren started taking new vitamins Melissa recommended. She says they're supposed to help with fertility. I want to believe. Then, 3 weeks ago. I don't understand. The doctors ran more tests. Lauren should be able to get pregnant. There's no medical reason. Unless… But no, I can't think that way. The final entry was dated yesterday. I can't do this anymore. We'll never have a child. I'm giving up, throwing it all away. Maybe then the pain will stop. I closed the journal, my heart hammering against my ribs. Something Melissa recommended. New vitamins from Melissa. Melissa who'd moved here to be close to her sister. Melissa who worked at the hospital with Steven. Melissa who, I suddenly remembered, had looked at my son with something more than sisterly affection at last Christmas dinner. And now Lauren was missing. I pulled out my phone and called Steven. He answered on the third ring, his voice rough. "Mom, it's late. Is everything… Where's Lauren?" I asked. A pause. Too long. She went out with Melissa. Girls' night. Why? Steven. My voice was steady despite the fear coursing through me. I need you to tell me the truth. When was the last time you actually saw your wife? Another pause. Then, in a voice that broke, "This morning. She left with Melissa around 10. Said they were going shopping in Pittsburgh. But Mom…" She's not answering her phone. Melissa says she dropped her off at home hours ago, but Lauren's not here. Her car is gone. Her purse is gone. It's like she just disappeared. I looked at the cabin, at the lake, at the bag of dreams my son had drowned. "Stay there," I said. "I'm coming over. And Steven, call the police. Right now." Because I knew, with a cold certainty that froze my blood, that Lauren hadn't disappeared by choice. And whatever was happening involved Melissa far more than anyone wanted to believe. The investigation was about to begin, and I would be the one to see it through. I made it to Steven's farmhouse in 40 minutes, breaking every speed limit on those dark country roads. His porch light blazed like a beacon, and I could see him pacing behind the living room window before I'd even parked. He opened the door before I could knock. His face was pale, eyes red-rimmed. "Mom, the police said they can't do anything for 24 hours. They said Lauren's an adult and she has the right to go wherever she wants without telling me." I pushed past him into the house. "Did you tell them about Melissa?" "Tell them what? That my sister-in-law gave her a ride?" Steven ran his hands through his hair, a gesture so familiar from his childhood it made my chest ache. "They asked if we'd had a fight, if Lauren had reason to leave. I said no, everything was fine. And they basically patted me on the head and said to call back tomorrow if she doesn't come home." I looked around the living room. Everything was neat, orderly. Lauren's reading glasses sat on the side table next to a half-finished cup of tea. Her laptop was closed on the desk. A stack of mail waited to be sorted. "Show me her phone records," I said. "What?" "Your phone bill. Show me the call logs." Steven stared at me for a moment, then went to the desk and pulled up their account on his laptop. I leaned over his shoulder, scanning the numbers. Lauren's phone had been active until 2:15 that afternoon. The last call was to Melissa. It lasted 7 minutes. "What about texts?" I asked. Steven pulled up Lauren's text messages. He had access through their shared family plan. The last message was to Melissa at 1:47 p.m. "Okay, I'll meet you at the parking lot." Nothing after that. "Where's Melissa now?" I asked. "At her apartment, I assume. She called me around 6 asking if Lauren had made it home. Said she'd dropped her off around 3. But Lauren's car is gone." "Right. Melissa said Lauren wanted to do some shopping on her own, so Melissa dropped her at the Riverside Mall. Lauren's car was here this morning when she left." Something wasn't adding up. So Melissa picked Lauren up here. They drove somewhere together. Then Melissa dropped Lauren at a mall to shop, where Lauren's own car wasn't? Steven's face went slack as the logic hit him. That doesn't make any sense. No, it doesn't. I pulled out my phone. "What's Melissa's number?" "Mom, you can't just…" "Give me the number, Steven." He rattled it off. I dialed, putting it on speaker. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. Melissa's voice bright and cheerful. "Hi, you've reached Melissa. Leave me a message and I'll call you back." I didn't leave a message. Instead, I looked at Steven. "We're going to her apartment, now." "It's almost midnight." "Your wife is missing and the last person who saw her is lying about where she dropped her off. We're going, now." Stephen grabbed his keys without another word. Melissa lived in a new apartment complex on the east side of Millbrook, one of those places with a gym and a pool that sat empty most of the year. We pulled up to find her windows dark. Stephen had a key. She'd given it to him and Lauren for emergencies, he explained as we climbed the stairs to the second floor. I didn't like that she'd given my son a key. Stephen knocked first. No answer. He knocked again, louder. Melissa? It's Stephen. I need to talk to you about Lauren. Silence. He looked at me. I nodded. He used the key. The apartment was dark but tidy. Too tidy. No dishes in the sink, no clutter on the counters. The living room looked like a furniture showroom, everything in place. Nothing personal except for a few framed photos. I walked to the photos while Stephen called out for Melissa in the bedroom and bathroom. The largest frame held a picture from Lauren and Stephen's wedding. But something was wrong with it. I picked it up, holding it closer. Someone had carefully cut Lauren's face out of the photo. Just a neat circular hole where her smiling face should have been. Stephen stood beside Melissa in his tuxedo, his arm around empty space. My blood ran cold. Stephen, I called softly. Come here. He emerged from the bedroom. She's not here. Her car's not in the lot either. He stopped when he saw my face. What? I handed him the photo frame. His hands started shaking. What the? Why would she? I moved to the other photos. Same thing. Every picture that included Lauren had been defaced. In a group shot from last Thanksgiving, Lauren's face was scratched out with black marker. In a candid from a summer barbecue, someone had drawn a red X over her. Stephen. My voice was steady, though my heart was racing. We need to search this apartment very carefully. And then we need to call the police again. You don't think Melissa would... I think your sister-in-law is obsessed with you. And I think your wife found out. We searched the apartment systematically. In the kitchen, I found a drawer full of takeout menus, all from restaurants I knew Stephen liked. In the bathroom, men's shaving cream and a razor. Stephen didn't recognize them as his brands, but they were the same types he used. In the bedroom, I found something that made my stomach turn. A box under the bed, filled with photos of Stephen. Hundreds of them. Some looked like they'd been taken at the hospital where they both worked. Stephen in the cafeteria, walking to his car, sitting at his desk. Others were taken without his knowledge. Stephen at the grocery store, Stephen at the gas station, Stephen in the yard at his own house. And at the bottom of the box, a wedding dress. Size 6, Lauren's size. Stephen's face had gone white. She's been following me. For months, by the look of it. I pulled out another item from the box, a journal smaller than the one I'd found at the cabin. This one was Melissa's handwriting. I flipped it open to a random page. Lauren doesn't deserve him. She can't even give him a child. I could give him everything. I would be a better wife. I would make him so happy. Another entry, dated 2 months ago. Started giving Lauren the pills today. Dr. Green said they were contraceptives, but I told Lauren they were fertility vitamins. She trusts me completely. Within a few months, she'll think she's infertile. Maybe then Stephen will leave her. The words swam before my eyes. I read the passage again, making sure I understood correctly. She's been sabotaging Lauren's fertility, I said, my voice hollow. Giving her birth control pills disguised as fertility vitamins. Stephen grabbed the journal from my hands, reading frantically. His face cycled through shock, horror, and finally rage. 3 years. We've been trying for 3 years. And Melissa, she's been preventing it the entire time. I pulled out my phone. Now we call the police. This is evidence of stalking, harassment, and... My phone rang before I could dial. Unknown number. I answered anyway. Hello! Heavy breathing on the other end. Then a woman's voice, high and strained. Tisha? It's Lauren. My heart nearly stopped. Lauren! Where are you? I don't have much time. Her voice was shaking. I figured out what Melissa was doing. The pills. Everything. I confronted her today when she picked me up. We fought in the car. She drugged me. Something in a water bottle she gave me. I woke up somewhere dark. I don't know where. My phone was in my pocket, but she doesn't know. The battery's almost dead. I heard her talking to someone. Tisha, she's not rational. She thinks if I'm gone, Stephen will. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, my hand trembling. Stephen was watching me with desperate eyes. That was Lauren, I said. She's alive, but Melissa has her somewhere. She drugged her, and she's holding her. Where? Did she say where? Somewhere dark. That's all she said before the call dropped. I tried calling back, straight to voicemail. Lauren's battery had died, or Melissa had found the phone. Stephen was already heading for the door. We have to find her. We have to. Stop. I grabbed his arm. Think, Stephen. Where would Melissa take her? Somewhere private. Somewhere she wouldn't be interrupted. Somewhere Lauren couldn't escape even if she woke up. Stephen's eyes met mine. I saw the moment realization hit him. The cabin, we said simultaneously. Of course. Melissa had been to the cabin before, last 4th of July, when Lauren had invited her family up for the weekend. She knew where it was. She had probably even known Stephen had been going there, maybe followed him. And now, in October, with most of the lake houses empty for the season, it was the perfect place to hide someone. We have to go, Stephen said. Right now. And we're calling the police on the way. I was already dialing 911 as we ran to his car. This time, they'll listen. We have evidence of stalking, assault, kidnapping. But when the dispatcher answered and I tried to explain, her response chilled me. Ma'am, I'm showing that Stephen Wright has already called 3 times tonight making allegations against Melissa Stewart. We've had an officer speak with Ms. Stewart, and she claims this is harassment stemming from marital problems between Mr. Wright and his wife. She's actually considering filing a restraining order. What? No, you don't understand. Ma'am, unless you have concrete evidence that a crime has been committed, I can't dispatch officers based on speculation. If Mrs. Wright doesn't return home by tomorrow evening, you can file a missing person report. She hung up. I stared at Stephen across the car. Melissa called them first. She's setting you up to look like the unstable one. How did she? Stephen's voice broke. She planned this. All of it. Yes. I buckled my seatbelt. But she didn't plan on me. Drive. Fast. And don't stop for anything. As we sped toward the mountain roads leading to Crystal Lake, my mind raced through everything I knew. Melissa had been poisoning Lauren's chance at motherhood for 3 years. She'd been stalking Stephen, collecting photos, building a delusional fantasy, and now she had Lauren trapped somewhere, probably at the cabin. But something else nagged at me. Melissa had called the police preemptively, creating a narrative where Stephen was the problem. That took planning. Calculation. How long had she been preparing this? And more importantly, what was her endgame? My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Stop looking for her. Lauren made her choice. She's leaving Stephen. Accept it and move on. If you involve the police, you'll regret it. M. I showed Stephen the message. His knuckles were white on the steering wheel. She's threatening us, he said. She's desperate. I watched the dark trees flash past the window, which makes her dangerous. We were 20 minutes from the cabin when I saw headlights behind us. They'd appeared suddenly, moving fast. Too fast. Stephen, I said quietly, don't react. But I think someone's following us. He checked the rearview mirror. The headlights were gaining ground, high and bright. A truck or SUV. Could be anyone on this road, he said, but his voice was tight. The vehicle closed the distance, now just 10 feet behind us. Then it accelerated, pulling alongside us in the opposite lane. I caught a glimpse of the driver as it passed. A woman with dark hair, her face twisted with rage. Melissa. She swerved her SUV toward us. Stephen jerked the wheel right, our tires catching the gravel shoulder. The car fishtailed, but he regained control. She's trying to run us off the road, Stephen shouted. Melissa's brake lights flared red ahead of us. She'd stopped diagonally across both lanes, blocking the narrow mountain road. Stephen slammed on the brakes. We skidded to a stop 30 feet from her vehicle. Melissa got out of her SUV, illuminated by our headlights. Even from this distance, I could see she was holding something. A tire iron. Both of you need to turn around and go home, she called out, her voice echoing in the mountain silence. This doesn't concern you, Tisha. This is between me and Stephen. I opened my door, stepping out before Stephen could stop me. "Where's Lauren?" I demanded. Melissa smiled. It was the most chilling thing I'd ever seen. "Safe, for now. But if you keep interfering, that could change." "You're threatening to hurt her?" "I'm promising to let her go. If Stephen agrees to my terms." "What terms?" Stephen had gotten out of the car too, positioning himself slightly in front of me. "Come with me. Now. Tell Lauren you're leaving her. Make her understand it's over. Then she can go home, and we can finally be together the way we're meant to be." The delusion in her voice was complete. She actually believed this could work. "Melissa," I said carefully, "you need help. This isn't love. What you're doing is... Don't." She raised the tire iron. "Don't tell me what I feel. I've loved Stephen since the day Lauren introduced us. 5 years I've watched him waste his life with her. 5 years I've waited for him to see what's right in front of him. And now, finally, he will." She pointed the tire iron at Stephen. "You have 10 seconds to decide. Come with me or I drive back to the cabin and Lauren dies. 1, 2, 3. "I'll come," Stephen said immediately. "Just don't hurt her. Please." "No!" I grabbed his arm. "You can't. I have to, Mom." His eyes met mine, and I saw the terror there, but also determination. "She's my wife. I have to save her." Melissa's smile widened. "Smart boy. Get in my car. Tisha, you drive Stephen's car back down the mountain. If I see you following us, Lauren pays the price. Understand?" Every instinct screamed at me to refuse, to fight, to find another way. But Lauren's life hung in the balance, and Melissa was clearly unhinged enough to do exactly what she threatened. "Let me call someone," I said. "Let me tell someone where we're going." "No." Melissa's voice was steel. "No calls, no police, no one. Stephen comes with me now, or this ends badly for everyone." I watched my son walk toward Melissa's SUV, his shoulders squared, his face set. He was walking into a trap, and we both knew it. But as he passed Melissa to get to the passenger side, he looked back at me, just for a second, and he mouthed 2 words: "Trust me." Then they were in the SUV, backing up, turning around, heading up toward the cabin. I stood alone on the dark mountain road, my heart pounding, my mind racing. Melissa had made one critical mistake. She'd assumed I would follow orders. She'd assumed an elderly woman would be too frightened, too cautious, too obedient to fight back. She had no idea what a mother was capable of when her children were in danger. I got back in Stephen's car, but I didn't turn around. Instead, I killed the headlights and followed at a distance, keeping Melissa's taillights barely in view. The real hunt was just beginning. I kept the headlights off, navigating by moonlight and memory. These roads had been part of my life for 40 years. I knew every curve, every pothole, every place where the shoulder dropped away into nothing. Melissa's taillight stayed visible ahead, 2 red dots weaving through the darkness. My phone buzzed. A text from Stephen. "Mom, if you're following, stay back. She keeps checking mirrors. Has knife. Lauren in cabin basement. Door code changed. We'll try to get it." Smart boy. He'd found a way to text while Melissa was driving. I texted back, "I'm here. Be careful. Love you." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. He couldn't risk responding. I thought about the basement at the cabin. Richard and I had converted it into a storage space years ago. Concrete walls, 1 small window near the ceiling, a heavy door with a deadbolt we'd installed to keep raccoons out. If Lauren was down there, injured or drugged, she'd be trapped. Melissa's SUV turned onto the private road leading to our cabin. I waited 30 seconds, then followed. Parking behind a thick stand of pines about 100 yards from the house, I could see the cabin lights come on, see Melissa and Stephen get out of the vehicle. I crept closer, staying in the tree line. The October night was cold enough that my breath formed white clouds, but I barely felt it. Every sense was heightened, focused. Through the living room window, I could see them. Melissa was pacing, animated, talking rapidly. Stephen stood very still, his hands visible at his sides. Smart, showing he wasn't a threat. His eyes kept darting toward the basement door. I needed to get closer, needed to hear what they were saying. I made my way around to the back of the cabin where the basement window was located. It was partially concealed by bushes, and I had to crouch low to peer inside. The basement light was off, but moonlight filtered through enough for me to make out a shape on the floor. Lauren. She was lying on an old mattress we'd stored down there, her hands bound with what looked like zip ties. Even in the dim light, I could see she was conscious. Her eyes were open, staring at the ceiling. I tapped gently on the window. Once. Twice. Lauren's head turned slowly toward the sound. Our eyes met. I saw recognition, then desperate hope flash across her face. I put my finger to my lips. She nodded almost imperceptibly. I pulled out my phone and texted her. "I'm here. Getting you out. Stay calm." A minute later, my phone buzzed. Lauren's text. "Melissa drugged me. Wearing off, but still weak. She's planning something bad. Heard her talking to someone on phone earlier. Think there's another person involved." Another person. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just Melissa acting alone. Someone else was helping her. Before I could respond, I heard voices raised inside the cabin. I hurried back toward the front, keeping low. "Not going to happen, Melissa." Stephen's voice, loud enough to carry through the walls. "This is crazy. Let Lauren go and we can get you help." "Help?" Melissa's laugh was shrill. "I don't need help. I need you to stop being blind. We're perfect together, Stephen. We always have been. I've spent 3 years trying to make you see it. By drugging my wife? By sabotaging our chance to have a family? She was never going to give you children." Melissa's voice cracked. "The doctor told me. He ran tests. Lauren has a condition, endometriosis. She's known for months but didn't tell you. She let you keep hoping while knowing it was impossible." I pressed closer to the window. "Was that true?" "You're lying," Stephen said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. "Am I? Ask her yourself." "Oh, wait. You can't, because she's been keeping secrets too. We're not so different, your wife and me. We both lied to you, but at least I did it because I love you." The door to the cabin opened suddenly. I ducked behind a thick oak tree as Melissa stormed out onto the deck, Stephen following. "I need air," Melissa said, her voice calmer now, calculating. "And you need to think. Really think about what I'm offering. A fresh start. A real family. Children. Everything Lauren couldn't give you." "Where did you get that information about Lauren's condition?" Stephen asked. "You're not her doctor." Melissa smiled. "No, but Dr. Green is, and he's very helpful when you know how to ask nicely." My mind raced. Dr. Green, the fertility specialist Lauren had been seeing. How had Melissa gotten access to confidential medical records? "That's a HIPAA violation," Stephen said. "He could lose his license." "He won't, though, because if Lauren tries to report him, he'll just say she's lying. Patient-doctor confidentiality works both ways." Melissa moved closer to Stephen. "Besides, does it really matter how I know? What matters is that I'm telling you the truth. Lauren can't have children. I can. I want to. With you. Even if what you're saying is true, which I don't believe. You kidnapped her. You drugged her. You've been stalking me for months. Years, maybe. You need psychiatric help." Melissa's expression darkened. "I need you to stop being stupid. This is your chance, Stephen. Choose me. Choose the life we could have together. Or stay loyal to a woman who's been lying to you since the beginning. Let me talk to Lauren." "No." "Then I'm walking out of here right now and calling the police." Melissa pulled something from her jacket pocket. The knife Stephen had mentioned in his text. Not large, but enough. "You're not going anywhere. And neither is she. Not until you agree." Stephen's hands came up, placating. Okay, let's just calm down and talk about this. I'm tired of talking." Melissa's voice rose to a shriek. "I've been patient. I've been waiting. And you still choose her." She lunged forward. Stephen caught her wrist and they struggled. The knife glinted in the porch light. I didn't think. I ran from my hiding place, grabbing a fallen branch from the ground. "Let him go." Melissa spun toward me, shock on her face. You followed us. I told you." "I don't take orders from you," I said, advancing with the branch held like a club. "Drop the knife and step away from my son." For a moment, we all froze in a terrible tableau. Then Melissa smiled. You want to know the really funny part, Tisha? Your son isn't the only one with secrets. Ask Stephen about Seattle. Ask him about the conference last March. Stephen's face went pale. Melissa, don't what? Don't tell your mother that you kissed me? That you came to my hotel room? The words hit me like a physical blow. I looked at Stephen. Is that true? I was drunk, Stephen said, his voice barely a whisper. It was a mistake. One kiss. I left immediately. I told her it could never happen again. But it did happen, Melissa said triumphantly. See, Tisha? He wanted me too. Deep down, he knows we belong together. That night proved it. That night proved I loved my wife. Stephen's voice broke. I felt so guilty I couldn't sleep for a week. I almost told Lauren a dozen times. The only reason I didn't was because I knew it would hurt her for no reason. Because it meant nothing. It meant everything to me. Melissa whispered. I looked at this woman, this girl really, only 28 years old, and saw the delusion that had consumed her. One drunken kiss had become in her mind a declaration of love, a promise of a future. Melissa, I said carefully, lowering the branch slightly, you've confused fantasy with reality. Whatever you think happened in Seattle, whatever you think Stephen feels, it's not real. You need professional help. Please, let us take you to a hospital. I don't need a hospital. She turned the knife toward me now. I need all of you to stop treating me like I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. I'm the only one seeing things clearly. Then help me understand, I said, taking a small step closer. If you love Stephen so much, why hurt the people he cares about? Why hurt Lauren? Why threaten us? Because you're in the way. Tears were streaming down Melissa's face now. All of you. Lauren kept him trapped in a loveless marriage. You kept filling his head with ideas about loyalty and commitment. Nobody could see that he deserves better, that I could make him happy. And kidnapping his wife will make him happy? I took another step. Forcing him to be with you at knife point? I'm not forcing... Melissa's voice cracked. I'm helping him see. Once Lauren's gone, once there's nothing holding him back, he'll understand. He'll choose me freely. Gone? Stephen's voice was hollow. What do you mean, gone? Melissa looked at him, and something in her expression shifted, hardened. I have friends who can make people disappear, people who owe me favors. Lauren doesn't have to die. She can just go away, start a new life somewhere else. That was the plan. What friends? I demanded. Who's helping you? Before Melissa could answer, headlights swept across the cabin. A car was coming up the drive. Melissa's eyes widened in panic. No. He's early. He wasn't supposed to come until... The car pulled to a stop. The door opened, and my heart stopped completely. Dr. Green stepped out, the fertility specialist who'd been treating Lauren, a man in his 50s, distinguished-looking, carrying a medical bag. Everything under control, Melissa? He called out. Melissa's hand with the knife was shaking now. You weren't supposed to be here yet. I told you midnight. I told you. Plans changed. Dr. Green walked toward us calmly, like this was a social visit. I got nervous. Thought I should check on our patient early. Our patient. The words made my skin crawl. What's in the bag? Stephen asked, his voice dangerous. Dr. Green smiled. Insurance. Melissa called me after Mrs. Wright discovered her little pill-switching trick. We decided it was time to be more direct. A simple injection. Painless. Lauren will just fall asleep and not wake up. Then Melissa gets what she wants and I get what I want. Which is? I asked, though I dreaded the answer. Freedom from a blackmailer. Dr. Green looked at Melissa with disgust. You see, your dear sister-in-law witnessed me with a patient in a compromising situation. She's been holding it over my head for months, forcing me to help with her pathetic obsession. But once Lauren is dead, we'll stage it as a suicide, distraught over her fertility issues. Stephen will grieve, Melissa will comfort him, and eventually they'll be together. And I'll be free of Melissa's threats. Everyone wins. Except Lauren, I said coldly. Except Lauren, he agreed. But sacrifices must be made. Melissa was staring at Dr. Green like she'd never seen him before. You said you wanted to help me. You said you cared about my happiness. I lied. Dr. Green opened his medical bag, pulling out a syringe. I care about my career, my reputation, my marriage. You've been a useful tool, Melissa, but you're also a liability. After tonight, you'll be implicated in a murder. If you try to expose me, I'll ensure you take all the blame. After all, you're the unstable one who's been stalking Stephen for years. I'm just the doctor who tried to help, who got pulled into your madness. The betrayal on Melissa's face would have been almost pitiable if she hadn't been holding a knife on my son. You're setting me up, she whispered. I'm protecting myself. Dr. Green turned to Stephen and me. Now, here's how this is going to work. You're going to take me to Lauren. I'm going to administer the injection. Then you're both going to leave here, say nothing for 24 hours, and by the time anyone finds the body, it will look like natural causes. Melissa will turn herself in for the kidnapping, consumed by guilt, and I'll testify that she was my patient, disturbed, obsessed. I'll express shock and dismay. Life goes on. You're insane, Stephen said. No, I'm practical. Dr. Green looked at his watch. We're wasting time. Every minute increases the risk of someone else showing up. Take me to Lauren. Now. No, I said simply. Dr. Green sighed. Mrs. Wright, I was hoping to avoid unpleasantness, but if you don't cooperate, I'll have to sedate you both as well. Then I'll go down there and do what needs to be done anyway. Your choice. He was moving toward me with the syringe when Melissa spoke. No. We all turned to look at her. No, she repeated louder now. The knife was no longer pointed at us. It was pointed at Dr. Green. You used me. You manipulated me. You made me think you were helping me win Stephen's love, but you were just protecting yourself. Melissa, put the knife down. You turned me into a kidnapper, a criminal. You were going to make me a murderer. Her voice rose to a scream. I never wanted Lauren dead. I just wanted her gone. I wanted Stephen to see that we belonged together. But you were going to kill her and frame me. Because you're weak, Dr. Green said coldly. You couldn't commit. You had months to make Stephen fall in love with you and you failed. I'm simply finishing what you started. Melissa let out a sound somewhere between a sob and a howl. Then she charged at Dr. Green, the knife raised. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. Dr. Green tried to dodge, dropping the syringe. Melissa collided with him. They went down in a tangle of limbs. Stephen, the basement! I shouted. Get Lauren out! Stephen didn't hesitate. He ran into the cabin while I moved toward the struggling pair on the ground. The knife had fallen from Melissa's hand. I kicked it away into the darkness. Dr. Green shoved Melissa off him and scrambled to his feet. His nose was bleeding. You stupid girl. You've ruined everything. Good. Melissa was crying now, hysterical. I don't care anymore. I don't want any of this. I just want it to stop. I heard Stephen's voice from inside the cabin. Mom, the door's padlocked. I can't get it open. Dr. Green heard it too. He lunged for his medical bag, pulling out another syringe. Then I'll do it myself. He ran for the cabin. I ran after him, but he was younger, faster. He disappeared through the door before I could catch him. By the time I got inside, I could hear him pounding down the basement steps. Stephen was at the top, trying to force the door, but the padlock held. Lauren! Stephen was shouting. Lauren, get away from the door. I looked around frantically. The spare key. Richard always kept a spare key to every lock in the cabin. Where had he put it? The kitchen drawer. I raced to it, dumping out contents. Batteries, twist ties, rubber bands. There! A small key ring with 3 keys. I ran back to Stephen, pressing them into his hand. He tried the first. Wrong. The second. Wrong. The third. Click. The padlock opened. Stephen ripped it off and threw open the door just as we heard Lauren scream. We thundered down the stairs to find Dr. Green standing over Lauren with the syringe. But Lauren, hands still bound, had kicked him hard in the knee. He stumbled backward and Stephen tackled him. The syringe flew from Dr. Green's hand, shattering against the concrete wall. Stephen's fist connected with Dr. Green's jaw. Once. Twice. The doctor went limp. "Stephen, stop!" I pulled at my son's arm. "Stop! You'll kill him!" Stephen pulled back, breathing hard, his knuckles bleeding. He was going to murder her. I know. But we need him alive to testify. I knelt beside Lauren, working at the zip ties on her wrists. "Sweetheart, are you hurt?" "Dizzy. Weak. But okay." Lauren's voice was hoarse. "Tisha, I'm so sorry. I should have told you. Told Stephen about the endometriosis. About not being able to— Shh. That's not important right now." I got the zip ties off and helped her sit up. "Can you stand?" "I think so." Stephen helped her to her feet, supporting most of her weight. She leaned against him, trembling. Above us, I could hear sirens. Distant, but getting closer. "Did you call the police?" Stephen asked me. "No, but I'm betting someone did." I looked at the unconscious doctor on the floor. Or maybe Dr. Green's wife got suspicious and tracked his phone. We made our way slowly up the stairs. In the living room, Melissa sat on the couch, her face in her hands, sobbing. She looked up as we emerged. Her eyes found Lauren's. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just wanted him to love me." Lauren said nothing. What could she say to that? The sirens were louder now. Red and blue lights began to flash through the windows. I looked at my son supporting his wife, at the woman who'd terrorized them sitting broken on my couch, at the unconscious doctor who'd been willing to commit murder. And I thought, this is what secrets do. They don't just hide the truth. They poison everything they touch. The police were at the door. The nightmare was ending. But I had a feeling the hardest part, the healing, was just beginning. The state police took statements for 3 hours. They arrested Dr. Green for attempted murder and kidnapping. They arrested Melissa for kidnapping, assault, and stalking. An ambulance took Lauren to Millbrook General for observation, with Stephen refusing to leave her side. I gave my statement to Detective Natalie Kowalski, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who listened to everything without interrupting. When I finished, she closed her notebook and looked at me with something like respect. "You're lucky you're not dead, Mrs. Wright. Following them up here alone was incredibly dangerous. My family was in danger. I did what I had to do. Well, your testimony will be crucial. Dr. Green is already asking for his lawyer, but Melissa Stewart is talking. A lot." Detective Kowalski stood. "We'll need you to come to the station tomorrow to sign your formal statement. And Mrs. Wright, get some rest. You look exhausted." I was exhausted. Bone deep, soul tired. But I couldn't rest yet. Something was still nagging at me, a piece that didn't quite fit. It was nearly 4 in the morning when I finally drove home, the sky just beginning to lighten in the east. My hands shook on the steering wheel. Adrenaline had carried me through the night, but now it was draining away, leaving me hollow. I made it to my driveway, parked, and sat in the car for 10 minutes before I had the energy to move. When I finally walked into my kitchen, I found the light already on. My daughter, Rebecca, was sitting at my kitchen table. "Mom," she stood, her face pale. "I've been calling you for hours. Your phone went straight to voicemail. I was about to call the police." Rebecca lived 2 states away in Virginia, working as an architect. We talked weekly but saw each other only a few times a year. What was she doing here at 4 in the morning? Rebecca. I set down my purse, my mind struggling to switch gears. There was an emergency with Stephen and Lauren. "I'm fine. Everyone's fine now." "I know. Stephen called me from the hospital an hour ago." Rebecca's eyes were red like she'd been crying. "He told me everything. About Melissa. About Dr. Green. About the cabin. Then you know it's over. They're safe." "Is it over?" Rebecca moved closer, and I saw something in her expression that sent alarm bells ringing. "Mom, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you months ago." I sank into a chair. "What is it?" Rebecca sat across from me, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles were white. "Last Christmas, when we were all at Stephen's house for dinner, I went outside to take a phone call. I saw Melissa in her car, parked down the street. She was just sitting there, watching the house. I thought it was weird, but I didn't say anything. Why not? Because Rebecca's voice cracked. Because I was dealing with my own mess. I didn't want to get involved in anyone else's problems. I was selfish and stupid and… Rebecca! I reached across the table, taking her hand. You couldn't have known what Melissa was planning. That's not all. Rebecca pulled her hand away, standing up to pace. 3 months ago, Melissa called me, out of the blue. Said she was worried about Lauren and Stephen's marriage. Said she thought they were having problems, and maybe I should talk to Stephen, see if he was okay. I went very still. What did you tell her? I said I'd noticed some tension between them at Easter, which was true. They'd seemed strained. But Mom, Melissa kept asking questions, personal questions, about Stephen's state of mind, about whether he'd ever mentioned being unhappy, about whether Lauren had confided in me about fertility issues. And you answered? Some of them, not all. Rebecca's face crumpled. I told her that Lauren had seemed sad, that I thought maybe they were struggling with something, but I didn't know what. I thought I was just talking to family, to Lauren's sister. I didn't know I was feeding information to a stalker. The implications hit me like a wave. Melissa had been gathering intelligence from multiple sources, using family connections to build her obsession. Did you tell anyone else about that conversation? I asked. No. I felt weird about it afterward. Something about the way Melissa asked the questions felt off. But I didn't know what to do, so I just did nothing. Rebecca wiped her eyes. And then tonight, when Stephen called and told me everything, I realized I'd helped her. I'd given her ammunition to use against them. You didn't know, I said firmly. Melissa manipulated you. That's what she does. But I should have said something. If I'd told you or Stephen about that phone call, maybe nothing would have changed. Melissa was going to do what she was going to do regardless. I stood, pulling my daughter into a hug. You're not responsible for her actions. Rebecca clung to me, and for a moment she was 7 years old again, crying over a scraped knee. I stroked her hair and made soothing sounds, even as my mind raced ahead to the implications. If Melissa had been calling Rebecca for information, who else had she contacted? How deep did this web go? My phone buzzed. A text from Stephen. Mom, you need to come to the hospital. Something's happened with Lauren. Fear shot through me. I have to go, Lauren. I'll drive you, Rebecca said immediately. You're dead on your feet. We made it to Millbrook General in 15 minutes. Stephen met us in the waiting room, his face drawn and gray. What happened? I asked. Is Lauren… She's physically okay, but Mom… Stephen looked around at the other people in the waiting room, then lowered his voice. The doctors ran a full toxicology panel. They found traces of multiple drugs in her system. Not just what Melissa gave her yesterday, but things that have been building up over time. What kind of drugs? Birth control hormones, for one, which confirms what Melissa said about switching Lauren's pills. But there was something else. An anti-anxiety medication. Heavy duty. The kind that can cause confusion, memory problems, depression. My mouth went dry. Lauren wasn't taking anxiety medication. No, she wasn't. Stephen's jaw clenched. But someone's been giving it to her for months, maybe longer. The doctor said the levels suggest regular, consistent dosing. Melissa, I said. That's what I thought at first. But Mom? Melissa's been giving her those fake fertility vitamins for 3 years. She didn't start drugging Lauren with other things until recently, according to her statement to the police. These levels suggest the anti-anxiety meds started at least 6 months ago. Maybe longer. Rebecca spoke up. Could it have been in something Lauren ate or drank regularly? Something Melissa had access to? The police are looking into that. But there's another problem. Stephen ran his hands through his hair. Lauren's been having memory gaps. She mentioned it to me a few months ago. Forgetting conversations, losing track of time, missing appointments. I thought it was stress. Now I'm wondering if it was the drugs. What kind of memory gaps? I asked. She couldn't remember a dinner we'd had with her parents. She forgot my birthday, which has never happened before. Last month she missed an important meeting at work and had no memory of it being scheduled. Stephen's voice dropped. The doctor said long-term exposure to this particular medication can cause early-onset dementia symptoms. If someone had been planning to make Lauren seem unstable, mentally incompetent, They could challenge her competency, I finished. Make her look like she couldn't make decisions for herself. Or her testimony unreliable, Rebecca added quietly. We all looked at each other as the pieces fell into place. Dr. Green, I said. He had access to prescription medications. He could have been drugging Lauren long before Melissa's kidnapping plot. But why? Stephen asked. What would he gain? That's when Detective Kowalski walked into the waiting room, her expression grim. Mr. Wright, Mrs. Wright. She nodded to Rebecca. I'm glad you're all here. We've made some discoveries that complicate this case significantly. We followed her to a small consultation room. She closed the door and pulled out a tablet. Melissa Stewart has been very forthcoming in her statement. She's trying to cooperate in exchange for a reduced sentence. Among other things, she's revealed that Dr. Green wasn't just helping her with her obsession. Detective Kowalski swiped through some files. He had his own agenda. What kind of agenda? I asked. Financial. We've been digging into his practice. Dr. Green runs a successful fertility clinic, but he's been under investigation by the state medical board for insurance fraud. He's been billing for procedures that were never performed, prescribing unnecessary treatments, and, she looked at Stephen, in some cases, actively preventing pregnancies while treating women for infertility. The room went silent. Why would he do that? Rebecca asked. Because infertility treatments are expensive and long-term. A patient who gets pregnant quickly might spend $10,000 or $20,000. A patient who never succeeds but keeps trying? That's hundreds of thousands over several years. Dr. Green has been systematically extending treatments, preventing success, and billing insurance companies for everything. I felt sick. Lauren was one of his patients. For 18 months, yes. And according to Melissa's statement, Green specifically recruited her to help sabotage Lauren's fertility. He needed an inside person, someone close to Lauren who could ensure the sabotage continued even outside his office. He used Melissa, Stephen said slowly. Her obsession with me. He weaponized it. Exactly. He convinced her that if Lauren couldn't have children, you'd leave her. He provided the contraceptive pills for Melissa to switch. He encouraged Melissa's delusion, and in return, Melissa made sure Lauren stayed infertile and continued paying for his treatments. That's not just fraud, I said. That's conspiracy. That's criminal on multiple levels, Detective Kowalski agreed. But it gets worse. We found emails on Dr. Green's computer. He was communicating with at least 3 other women in similar situations, women whose sisters or friends were being treated for infertility, women who had their own obsessive interests in the patient's husbands. He had a whole operation, Rebecca said, stunned. A profitable one. And when patients like Lauren started getting suspicious, he had a backup plan. The anti-anxiety medication he was prescribing, supposedly for treatment-related stress, had the side effect of causing memory problems and confusion. If a patient started questioning his methods or his bills, he could point to their mental instability as the reason. Stephen had gone pale. He prescribed those pills to Lauren about 8 months ago, said they'd help with the stress of fertility treatments, and she trusted him because he was her doctor. Detective Kowalski closed the tablet. Mr. Wright, your wife was being systematically poisoned and defrauded. The financial records we've pulled show that you've paid Dr. Green over $200,000 in the past 18 months. The number hit like a punch. Stephen staggered backward, catching himself on the edge of the table. 200. We refinanced our house, took out loans. I've been working double shifts for a year to pay for treatments. Lauren felt so guilty about the expense. She took a second job. Green knew exactly what he was doing, I said quietly. He was bleeding them dry while ensuring they'd never succeed. And if Lauren had died last night, as Green planned, all evidence of his fraud would have died with her. Her medical records could be altered or destroyed. Melissa would take the blame for everything. Green would walk away clean and rich. Rebecca spoke up. But why try to kill her? Why not just let the fraud continue? Because Lauren was starting to ask questions, Detective Kowalski said. According to her initial statement, she'd requested copies of all her medical records 2 weeks ago. She was thinking about getting a second opinion from another specialist. Green couldn't allow that. So he accelerated Melissa's kidnapping plan, I said. Turned it into a murder plot. 2 birds, 1 stone. Eliminate the threat to his fraud scheme and give Melissa what she wanted. Except Melissa didn't want Lauren dead, Stephen said. She just wanted her gone. Green twisted her obsession into something darker. And when Melissa realized what he was really planning, she turned on him. Detective Kowalski confirmed. Her statement has been very detailed. We have enough to charge Green with fraud, conspiracy, attempted murder, and about a dozen other crimes. What about the other patients? I asked. The other women he was doing this to? We're contacting them now. This is going to be a major case. Dr. Green's career is over, and he's looking at decades in prison. The detective left to continue her investigation. The 3 of us sat in silence for a long moment. $200,000, Stephen finally said. We could have had that house paid off, could have saved for our future, for a child's education, and he just took it. Took everything while pretending to help us. We'll get through this, I said. Lauren's alive. That's what matters. Is it? Stephen looked at me with haunted eyes. Mom, what if the drugs permanently damaged her? What if the stress and the trauma? What if we can never have children now? What if Green took that from us forever? I didn't have an answer. Sometimes there are no comforting words, no easy reassurances. The door opened. A nurse appeared. Mr. Wright? Your wife is asking for you. Stephen stood, then hesitated. Mom, will you come with me? I don't think I can face her alone right now. Of course. We walked down the hallway to Lauren's room. She was sitting up in bed, an IV in her arm, her face almost as pale as the pillows, but her eyes were clear, alert. Stephen, she said softly. Tisha, thank God. Stephen went to her bedside, taking her hand. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Then Lauren started crying. I'm so sorry, she sobbed. I should have told you. About the endometriosis. About thinking I couldn't have children. I was so ashamed. I thought if you knew you'd leave me. And I couldn't bear that, so I just kept trying and trying, hoping maybe the doctors were wrong. Maybe there was still a chance. Shh, Stephen said, pulling her into his arms. We'll talk about all of it. But not now. Right now, you just need to rest. But the money. All that money we spent. Stephen, I've destroyed our finances for nothing. The police are going after Dr. Green's assets, I interjected. You'll get restitution. It won't be immediate, but you'll get your money back. That's not the point. Lauren looked at me with devastated eyes. The point is, I should have been honest from the start. If I'd just told Stephen about the endometriosis diagnosis 2 years ago, we could have explored other options. Adoption, surrogacy, something. Instead, I lied and kept hoping and let Green bleed us dry. You were a victim, I said firmly. He exploited your vulnerability. He and Melissa both. Melissa? Lauren's face crumpled again. My own sister. How could she hate me that much? She doesn't hate you, Stephen said quietly. She's sick. Obsessed. I should have seen it. Should have noticed something was wrong. We all should have, Rebecca said from the doorway. She'd been standing there silently, but now she stepped into the room. Lauren, I'm so sorry. I talked to Melissa about you and Stephen. Answered questions I shouldn't have. I gave her information she used to hurt you. Lauren shook her head. You didn't know. None of us knew. But that wasn't quite true. Someone had known. Someone had seen the signs and said nothing. A new thought occurred to me, cold and unsettling. Lauren, when did Dr. Green first suggest that Melissa accompany you to appointments? Lauren frowned, thinking. About a year ago. He said having family support was important for the process. Melissa had just moved to town, she wasn't working yet, and she volunteered to come with me. Why? Because Green knew about Melissa's feelings for Stephen before any of us did, I said slowly. He recruited her specifically because she was obsessed. He targeted her the same way he targeted his other accomplices. How would he have known? Stephen asked. Hospital records, Rebecca said suddenly. Melissa works at Millbrook General. Green has privileges there. He could have seen her watching Stephen, could have noticed her behavior and realized she was exploitable. Just like he realized Lauren was exploitable because of her desperation for a child, I added. He's a predator. He identifies vulnerable people and uses them. A knock on the door interrupted us. Detective Kowalski again. Sorry to intrude, but there's been a development. Dr. Green's lawyer just arrived, and Green changed his story. He's now claiming that everything was Melissa's idea, that she manipulated him, threatened him, forced him to help her. He's trying to position himself as another victim. That's ridiculous, Stephen said. We have evidence. We do. But his lawyer is good, and he's going to fight this every step of the way, which means you all need to be prepared for a long legal battle. Detective Kowalski looked at each of us in turn. Green has resources, money, connections. He's going to use every trick in the book to avoid prison. Let him try, I said quietly. We have the truth on our side. Truth doesn't always win in court, Mrs. Wright, especially when money's involved. After the detective left, we sat in heavy silence. The enormity of what we were facing was starting to sink in. Criminal trials, civil suits, months or years of legal proceedings. Our family's trauma exposed for public consumption. And through it all, we'd have to find a way to heal, to rebuild trust, to become a family again. I looked at my children and my daughter-in-law, all of them bearing wounds both visible and invisible. And I made a decision. We're going to get through this, I said. Together. All of us. Whatever it takes, however long it takes, we're going to survive this and come out stronger. How can you be so sure? Lauren asked. Because, I said, I've lived 64 years on this earth. I've survived losing my husband. I've raised 2 children through every possible crisis, and I've learned that the only thing stronger than evil is family. Real family. Not the kind that hurts you, but the kind that fights for you. I looked at Stephen. Even when they make mistakes. I looked at Rebecca. Even when they feel guilty. I looked at Lauren. Even when they're afraid. We're going to fight Green. We're going to see justice done, and we're not going to let him or Melissa or anyone else destroy what we've built. But even as I said it, my phone buzzed with a new message. Unknown number. This isn't over, Tisha. You've made powerful enemies. Watch your back. I deleted the message without showing anyone. No need to worry them more tonight. But I knew, with cold certainty, that the real battle was just beginning. 3 weeks later, I sat in a conference room at the offices of Brennan and Associates, the law firm representing our family in the civil suit against Dr. Green. Around the table sat Stephen, Lauren, Rebecca, our attorney Julia Brennan, and Detective Kowalski. We were preparing for the preliminary hearing scheduled for the next day. Dr. Green's criminal trial wouldn't start for months, but the civil case was moving forward aggressively. Julia believed we had a strong case for fraud, malpractice, and emotional distress. But something had been bothering me for days. A pattern I couldn't quite see, pieces that didn't fit together cleanly. Mrs. Wright? Julia was looking at me expectantly. Did you hear the question? I'm sorry. Could you repeat it? I asked if you'd received any more threatening messages since the one you reported 3 weeks ago. I had received more. 5 of them, actually. All from different numbers. All warning me to drop the case, to convince Stephen and Lauren to accept a settlement and move on. I'd reported the first 2 to Detective Kowalski, but the police couldn't trace them. Burner phones, probably. 2 more, I lied. No need to worry everyone with the full count. Same basic message. Drop the case or face consequences. Dr. Green's getting desperate, Stephen said. His medical license was suspended yesterday. His practice is being audited. His wife filed for divorce last week. Desperate people are dangerous people, Detective Kowalski interjected. I've been doing some additional digging into Dr. Green's background. There's something you all should know. We turned to her. She pulled out a file folder, spreading several documents across the table. Dr. Green has been in trouble before. Not in Pennsylvania, in Illinois, where he practiced for 15 years before moving here. I reached out to colleagues in Chicago PD. Turns out Green was investigated for insurance fraud there too, but the case fell apart. Why? Julia asked. The key witness recanted her testimony, a nurse who worked at his clinic. She'd been prepared to testify that Green was falsifying patient records, but she suddenly changed her story. said she'd been mistaken, that she misunderstood what she'd seen. Let me guess, I said. She received threatening messages. Her car was vandalized. Her apartment was broken into. Nothing stolen, just ransacked. A message. She got scared and backed down. Without her testimony, the case collapsed. Green moved to Pennsylvania 6 months later and started fresh. Lauren's face had gone pale. He's done this before. Intimidated witnesses. Made people too afraid to testify. Which is why I'm recommending we move up the criminal trial timeline, Detective Kowalski said. The longer we wait, the more time Green has to intimidate witnesses and manipulate evidence. I've already spoken to the DA. They're considering an expedited hearing. How soon? Stephen asked. 2 weeks, maybe 3. That's not enough time to prepare, Julia protested. It's enough time for Green to destroy more lives, I said quietly. We move forward. Fast. Julia looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. All right. But we need to be smart about this. Dr. Green's not working alone. Someone's sending those threatening messages for him. Someone's doing his dirty work. Melissa? Rebecca suggested. She's been in custody since the kidnapping, Detective Kowalski said. It's not her. But Green has connections. Money. He could have hired someone. Or, I said slowly, he could have another partner we don't know about. Everyone turned to look at me. Think about it, I continued. Green recruited Melissa because she was obsessed with Stephen. He used her vulnerability against her. What if he's done that with other people? What if there's another accomplice? Someone who's still out there, still loyal to him? The emails mentioned 3 other women, Stephen said. Women who were helping him sabotage fertility treatments. Have the police contacted all of them? Detective Kowalski shifted uncomfortably. 2 of them. The 3rd one has disappeared. Lisa Hartley. She was Dr. Green's office manager until about 6 weeks ago. She quit suddenly, cleared out her apartment, and vanished. We've been trying to track her down for weeks. Right around the time Lauren requested her medical records, I said. Exactly. I think Hartley was Dr. Green's main accomplice. She had access to everything. Patient files, billing records, prescription pads. If anyone helped Green set up his fraud operation, it was her. And she's still out there, Lauren said, her voice tight with fear. Still loyal to Green. Maybe sending those threatening messages. It's a theory, Detective Kowalski admitted. But we have no proof. Hartley covered her tracks well. After the meeting ended, I stayed behind to speak with Julia privately. You're holding something back, she said once we were alone. What is it? I pulled out my phone and showed her the 5 threatening messages I'd actually received. Her expression darkened as she read them. Tisha, why didn't you report all of these? Because I wanted to see if I could figure out who was sending them. And I think I have. I pulled out a folder I'd been carrying. Inside were printouts. Research I'd been doing on my own, late at night when I couldn't sleep. Lisa Hartley didn't just disappear. She changed her identity. Look, I showed Julia a social media profile. This woman, Linda Hammond, started posting on Facebook 6 weeks ago. Brand new account. No history. But look at the photos. Julia studied them. She looks like she could be Hartley, but look at the background of this photo. That's the Millbrook Town Square. She's still here, still watching us. How did you find this? I spent 3 weeks going through every social media account created in Pennsylvania in the past 2 months, cross-referenced them with photos of Dr. Green's staff from the clinic website. It took time, but I found her. Julia stared at me with something like awe. You did police work. I did grandmother work. When my grandchildren were younger, I learned how to track their social media to keep them safe. Same skills, different application. Have you told Detective Kowalski? Not yet, because I want to catch Hartley in the act. I want proof that she's the one threatening us, that she's working for Green, and I think I know how to get it. I explained my plan. Julia listened, her expression cycling through shock, concern, and finally reluctant admiration. This is dangerous, she said. So is letting Green win. Tisha, you're not a police officer. You're not trained for this kind of, I'm a mother protecting her family. That's all the training I need. The next morning, I posted on my own Facebook account, something I rarely did. A simple message. Meeting with prosecutors tomorrow to provide additional evidence in the Green case. Justice is coming. It was bait, and I waited to see if anyone would bite. That evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Heavy breathing. Then a woman's voice, tight with anger. You stupid old woman. You should have taken the settlement. Now you've left me no choice. Lisa Hartley? I said calmly. A sharp intake of breath. How did you— I know everything. I know you helped Green set up the fraud. I know you've been sending the threatening messages. I know you're still in Millbrook, still trying to protect him. You know nothing. The voice was shrill now. Dr. Green saved my life. When I was struggling with infertility, when I was desperate, he gave me hope. He's a good man, and I won't let you destroy him. He lied to you, Lisa. Whatever he told you, whatever he promised, it was all manipulation. He uses people. That's what he does. No, you're wrong. Her voice broke. He said if I helped him, he'd make sure I got pregnant. He said I was special, that he'd give me the treatments I needed. And he did. I have a baby now. A beautiful baby girl. Because of him. My heart sank. Another victim. Another vulnerable woman Green had exploited. Lisa, did you ever stop to wonder why you couldn't get pregnant before Green helped you? Did you ever consider that maybe he was the one preventing it, just like he prevented my daughter-in-law's pregnancy? Silence on the other end. He does it to everyone, I said gently. He creates the problem so he can sell the solution. That's his pattern. You were never infertile, Lisa. He just made you think you were. You're lying. But her voice wavered. I'm not. And deep down, you know it. That's why you're so angry. That's why you're still protecting him. Because if I'm right, it means everything he told you was a lie. It means the man you trusted, the man you committed crimes for, it means he used you just like he used everyone else. Stop it. He's not worth going to prison for, Lisa. He's not worth destroying your life for. You have a daughter now. Think about her. Think about what happens to her if you get arrested for making terrorist threats, for witness intimidation. Think about— I said stop. The line went dead. I immediately called Detective Kowalski. I just spoke with Lisa Hartley. She called me from— I checked my phone's call log. This number. She admitted to sending the threatening messages. She's in Millbrook. And she has a baby. I'm tracing the number now, Kowalski said. I could hear rapid typing in the background. Got it. The call came from a cell tower near the Riverside Mall. I'm sending units there now. Tisha, where are you? Home. Safe. Stay there. Lock your doors. If Hartley is as unstable as she sounds, she might— The sound of breaking glass from my kitchen interrupted her. I spun around to see my back door swinging open. Lisa Hartley stood in my kitchen holding a gun. Hello, Tisha, she said. We need to talk. I kept the phone to my ear. Detective Kowalski was shouting on the other end, but I spoke calmly. Detective, I need to call you back. Tisha, don't hang up. We're tracking your location. I ended the call. Hartley gestured with the gun toward my living room. Sit. I sat. My mind was racing, but I kept my voice steady. You don't want to do this, Lisa. You have a baby at home, a daughter who needs her mother. My daughter needs her mother to be strong, to fight for what's right. Hartley was pacing now, the gun waving dangerously. Dr. Green gave me everything, and you're trying to take him away, to put him in prison. He committed crimes, Lisa. Fraud. Attempted murder. You can't— He never tried to murder anyone. That was all Melissa. She was crazy, obsessed. Dr. Green was just trying to help her. Is that what he told you? It's the truth. Then why did he run when the police arrived? Why did he have a syringe full of sedatives? Why was he standing over my daughter-in-law about to inject her? Hartley's face crumpled. He was stopping Melissa. He was trying to save Lauren. That's what he told me. That's what happened. And you believed him because you wanted to. Because if Green is a monster, then you're a monster too for helping him. It's easier to believe the lie. Shut up, Hartley raised the gun, pointing it directly at my face. You don't know anything about me, about what I've been through. I had 3 miscarriages before Dr. Green, 3 babies I lost. And then he helped me, and I finally had my daughter. He's a miracle worker. He's a con artist. I stood slowly, carefully. And somewhere inside, you know it. That's why you're here pointing a gun at a 64-year-old woman. Not because you believe in Green, but because you're terrified that I'm right. Tears were streaming down Hartley's face now. If you're right, then I helped him hurt people. Innocent people. Women like me who just wanted babies. Yes, I said gently. You did. But you can stop now. You can tell the truth. You can help us make sure Green never hurts anyone else. It's too late. I've already... She stopped, her face going pale. Already what, Lisa? The evidence. The files. Green kept copies of everything at his house. Records of all the patients he defrauded, all the accomplices he recruited, everything. He kept it as insurance, he said, so that if anyone tried to expose him, he could threaten to expose them too. Where are these files? I was supposed to destroy them. Tonight. That's why I'm here. After I scared you into dropping the case, I was going to Dr. Green's house to burn all the evidence. That was the plan. But his wife is still there. She wouldn't let me in. So I came here instead, to make you stop the investigation so the files wouldn't matter anymore. Hartley's hand with the gun was shaking badly now. This wasn't supposed to happen. None of this was supposed to happen. I just wanted a baby. I just wanted to be a mother. And now you are, I said softly. Don't throw that away. Don't make your daughter grow up without you. The sound of sirens in the distance made Hartley spin toward the window. No, 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 no. It's over, Lisa. Put the gun down. The police are coming. They know you're here. There's no escape. I can't go to prison. My baby will be taken care of. But only if you surrender now. If you hurt me. If you make this worse. I stepped closer. Then your daughter will grow up knowing her mother was a murderer. Is that what you want? Hartley looked at me. At the gun. At the flashing lights now visible through the window. Then, slowly, she set the gun on my coffee table and sank to her knees, sobbing. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I picked up the gun carefully, ejecting the magazine. Then I opened the door for the police. Detective Kowalski rushed in with 4 other officers. They arrested Hartley, who went without resistance, still crying. Are you hurt? Kowalski asked me. No, I'm fine. I handed her the gun. But you need to get to Dr. Green's house. Now. His ex-wife is there, and there are files, evidence of everything he's done. Every patient, every accomplice. It's all documented. Kowalski was already on her radio, dispatching units. Then she looked at me with exasperation and respect warring in her expression. You used yourself as bait. I used Facebook as bait. I just happened to be attached to it. You could have been killed, but I wasn't. And now you have Hartley in custody and a lead on evidence that could bring down Dr. Green's entire operation. I sat down heavily, my legs suddenly weak as the adrenaline drained away. Though I wouldn't mind if you posted an officer outside my house for the next few days. Already done. Kowalski sat beside me. Tisha, what you did tonight was incredibly brave and incredibly stupid. Welcome to motherhood. We specialize in both. By midnight, the police had recovered 17 boxes of files from Dr. Green's house. His ex-wife had been only too happy to hand them over, apparently. Green had been using the files to threaten her too, to keep her quiet about his affairs and his fraud. The evidence was damning. Patient records showing systematic fraud, communications with accomplices, financial records proving Green had embezzled over $3 million, and most shocking, a ledger showing that Green had been blackmailing several of his victims, including 2 wealthy patients who'd paid him hundreds of thousands in hush money. The DA called an emergency meeting. By morning, they'd added 10 more charges to Dr. Green's indictment. His bail was revoked, and 6 more women had come forward to testify against him. I sat in my kitchen drinking tea when Stephen, Lauren, and Rebecca arrived at dawn. Mom, Stephen pulled me into a fierce hug. I heard what happened. Are you okay? Why didn't you call me? Because you needed to rest. And I needed to finish this. By confronting an armed woman alone? Rebecca's voice was high with stress. By giving her a chance to do the right thing. Which she did, eventually. Lauren knelt beside my chair. Tisha, you saved us. Again. You gathered the evidence. You got Hartley to confess. You brought down Dr. Green's entire operation. How can we ever— By healing, I interrupted. By moving forward. By becoming a family again. We never stopped being a family, Stephen said. Didn't we? I looked at each of them. For months, we all kept secrets. You kept your fertility struggles private. Lauren hid her diagnosis. Rebecca didn't mention Melissa's strange behavior. I didn't tell you about all the threatening messages. We fragmented. We isolated. And that almost destroyed us. So, what do we do now? Rebecca asked. Now, we trust each other. Completely. No more secrets. No more hiding our pain to protect each other from worry. We face things together. All of it. The good, the bad, and everything in between. Starting with the fact that we're broke, Stephen said with a bitter laugh. 200,000 in debt with no way to— Actually, Lauren interrupted, I spoke with Julia Brennan yesterday. With Dr. Green's assets being seized, and with the evidence of systematic fraud, she thinks we'll recover most of what we lost. Maybe even get additional damages. It'll take time, but we'll have our money back? Stephen looked stunned. And our lives back, I added. Green will spend decades in prison. Melissa will get the psychiatric help she needs. Hartley will face consequences but also get treatment. And I looked around at my family. We get to start over. Fresh. Honest. Together. The sunrise was painting my kitchen golden. A new day. A new beginning. There's something else, Lauren said quietly. I've been doing research about endometriosis, about treatment options. And I found a specialist in Philadelphia, someone with no connection to Green, who thinks she can help. She said with proper treatment, there's a real chance I could get pregnant. Or if not, she can help us explore other options. IVF, surrogacy, adoption. Whatever you decide, I said. We'll support you. Both of you. Stephen pulled Lauren close. I just want you to be healthy and happy. If that means no children, then it means we find another way, Lauren said firmly. Because I'm not giving up on our dream. Not anymore. Green tried to break us, but instead, he just made us stronger. She was right. We were stronger. Forged in fire. Tested and proven. My phone buzzed. A text from Detective Kowalski. Green just agreed to a plea deal. Full confession in exchange for reduced sentence. He's giving up everyone. All his accomplices, all his contacts, everything. This case is closed. I showed the message to my family. Rebecca started crying. Stephen let out a long, shaky breath. Lauren squeezed my hand. It's really over, she said. The legal part is, I agreed. Now comes the hard part. Healing the emotional wounds. Building new trust. Learning to be a family again. How long will that take? Rebecca asked. I smiled. However long it takes. We have time. We have each other. That's all we need. As the sun rose higher, filling my kitchen with light, I thought about the past 3 weeks. The terror. The revelations. The confrontations. I'd faced down a killer, tracked down an accomplice, and exposed a massive criminal conspiracy. Not bad for a 64-year-old grandmother. But more importantly, I'd kept my family together. I'd protected my children. I'd proven that wisdom and experience could triumph over violence and manipulation. The fight was over. The healing could begin. 6 months later, I stood on the deck of the cabin at Crystal Lake, watching the morning sun sparkle across the water. It was April now, and the lake community was coming back to life. Boats bobbed at their docks. Children's laughter echoed from neighboring properties. The world felt new again. Behind me, I heard the cabin door open. Stephen stepped out carrying 2 mugs of coffee. Mom, you've been out here for an hour. It's still cold. He handed me a mug, steam rising in the crisp air. I was remembering, I said. The night I found you here. The bag you threw in the lake. Stephen's expression clouded. I try not to think about that night. Maybe you should. Not the pain of it, but what it represented. You were grieving something you hadn't lost yet. Giving up on hope before hope had actually died. Hope was dying, though. 3 years of trying, of failing, of watching Lauren suffer. He stopped, taking a sip of coffee. I felt so helpless. And now, a smile broke across his face. Now I feel terrified and excited and grateful all at once. Inside the cabin, Lauren was sleeping, 3 months pregnant. The specialist in Philadelphia had worked miracles. Proper treatment for the endometriosis, careful monitoring, and most importantly, honesty about what was happening to her body. No more secrets, no more shame. The pregnancy was high risk. There were no guarantees, but there was hope. Real, honest hope. She's showing now, Stephen said softly. Just a small bump, but it's there. Real. Growing. How are you handling it? Day by day. Sometimes hour by hour. He laughed. Every doctor's appointment, I'm convinced something's gone wrong. Lauren has to calm me down. She's the strong one now. She always was. She just didn't know it. We stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Stephen said, I got a call from Detective Kowalski yesterday. Dr. Green's sentencing is next week. They're expecting 25 to 30 years. Good. Melissa's trial is scheduled for June. Her lawyers are pushing for psychiatric treatment instead of prison. What do you think should happen? Stephen considered. A year ago, I would have said lock her up and throw away the key. But now, I think she needs help. Real help. What she did was unforgivable, but she's also sick. And she was manipulated by Green, used by him. That doesn't excuse her actions, but it explains them. Very wise, I said. I learned from the best. He bumped my shoulder with his. Speaking of which, Rebecca told me about your new project. I smiled. It's nothing major. Mom, you're teaching online courses about digital literacy for seniors, helping other older adults learn to navigate social media and spot online scams. That's not nothing. After the case ended, I'd realized my skills, the ones I'd used to track down Hartley, could help others. So many elderly people were vulnerable to online predators, scammers, and manipulators. If I could teach them to protect themselves, to investigate when something seemed wrong, to use technology as a tool rather than fear it. I've had over 200 people sign up for the first course, I admitted. It starts next month. I'm proud of you. Stephen's voice was thick with emotion. You saved our family, and now you're helping save others. I'm just using what I learned. Experience is only valuable if you share it. The cabin door opened again. Lauren emerged, wrapped in a blanket, her hair tousled from sleep. Are you two having a moment without me? Never, Stephen said, moving to put his arm around her. How are you feeling? Nauseous? Exhausted? Happy? She smiled at me. Tisha, thank you for inviting us up here this weekend. I know this place holds difficult memories. It holds all kinds of memories, I corrected. Some painful, some beautiful. That's what makes it home. We'd decided to face the cabin together as a family, to reclaim it from the darkness of that October night, to make new memories here, better ones. I have something to show you both, I said. Come with me. I led them down to the dock. Tied there was a small rowboat, freshly painted a cheerful yellow. You fixed Grandpa's boat, Stephen said, surprise in his voice. We fixed it. Rebecca and I spent last weekend sanding and painting. It hasn't been in the water for 3 years, but it's seaworthy now. Richard and I had spent countless hours in that boat, fishing and talking and watching sunsets. After he died, I couldn't bear to look at it. But Rebecca had convinced me that letting it rot was a worse memorial than restoring it. Can we take it out? Lauren asked. That's exactly what we're going to do. We spent the morning on the lake, the 3 of us squeezed into the little boat, not fishing, but just floating. Stephen told stories about his childhood summers here. Lauren talked about her plans for the nursery. Not buying anything yet? Not until she was further along, but dreaming, planning, hoping. And I listened, absorbing their joy like sunlight, feeling the weight I'd carried for 6 months finally begin to lift. When we returned to shore, Rebecca was waiting on the dock. She'd driven up from Virginia for the weekend, taking time off from her architecture firm. Perfect timing, she said. I brought lunch and news. We gathered around the cabin's table, sandwiches from the deli in town, chips, fresh fruit, simple food, but it tasted like celebration. So, Rebecca said, pulling out her phone. I got a call this morning. Remember how I testified about Dr. Green's use of technology to track and manipulate his victims? Of course, I said. Your testimony was crucial. Well, the state medical board was impressed. They've asked me to consult on a new initiative, developing digital security protocols for medical practices, making sure patient data is protected, that staff can't access information they shouldn't, that vulnerable patients are safeguarded from predators like Green. Rebecca, that's wonderful. Lauren reached across the table to squeeze her hand. It's part-time, but it's meaningful work. And it came from something terrible, the Green case, but it might prevent future tragedies. Rebecca looked at me. I learned that from you, Mom. How to take pain and transform it into purpose. You learned it from your father, I said. He was the one who always said that suffering was only worthwhile if it taught you something. We talked for hours, the conversation flowing easily. At one point, Stephen's phone rang. He glanced at it and frowned. It's Allison, Lauren's mom. He answered on speaker. Hi, Allison. You're on speaker with Tisha, Lauren, and Rebecca. Good. You're all together. Allison's voice was strained. I wanted to update you. I visited Melissa today. The mood at the table shifted. We all knew Allison had been visiting her younger daughter regularly. Melissa was in a psychiatric facility awaiting trial. How is she? Lauren asked quietly. Better. The medication is helping. She's in intensive therapy. And Allison's voice cracked. She's starting to understand what she did, the harm she caused. She asked me to tell you, all of you, that she's sorry. She knows sorry isn't enough, but it's all she has right now. Lauren's eyes filled with tears. Tell her I forgive her. Stephen looked shocked. Lauren, I forgive her, Lauren repeated firmly. Not because what she did was okay. It wasn't. It was terrible and traumatic, and it nearly destroyed us. But holding on to anger is only hurting me now. She's getting help. She's facing consequences. And I need to let go of the hate so I can move forward. That's very generous of you, Allison said, her voice thick with emotion. More than we deserve. You deserve it, I interjected. You and Tom are good people who did your best. Melissa's illness isn't your fault. Thank you, Tisha. That means more than you know. Allison paused. There's something else. Melissa wanted me to tell you that she's been working with the prosecutors. She's providing information about other doctors Green mentioned, other fertility clinics that might be running similar frauds. She wants to help make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. Good, Stephen said. That's good. After we ended the call, we sat in silence for a moment. Then Lauren said, I think I need some air. Want to walk with me, Tisha? We left Stephen and Rebecca cleaning up lunch and walked along the lake path. The trees were budding, spring green and tender. Everything felt like possibility. Are you sure about forgiving Melissa? I asked after a while. No, Lauren admitted. Part of me still wants to hate her. But Tisha, I've spent 6 months in therapy working through trauma and trust issues. And my therapist said something that stuck with me. Holding on to anger at someone who hurt you is like drinking poison and expecting them to die. I need to let it go for my sake, not hers. Very wise. I learned from you. Lauren stopped walking, turning to face me. You saved my life. Multiple times. You could have given up on me, on us, when everything seemed impossible. But you didn't. You kept fighting, kept investigating, kept protecting us even when it put you in danger. That's what mothers do. No, that's what extraordinary mothers do. Lauren took my hands. Stephen and I have been talking. When the baby comes, we want to name her after you. If it's a girl, Tisha Grace. My vision blurred with tears. I'd be honored. You deserve more than honor. You deserve gratitude and recognition and… Lauren laughed through her own tears. I don't even know how to express what you mean to us. To me, you don't have to. I see it every day, in your strength, in your healing, in the family you and Stephen are building together. I squeezed her hands. That's all the recognition I need. We walked back to find Stephen and Rebecca sitting on the deck, deep in conversation. They looked up as we approached, and Stephen's face split into a wide smile. Mom, Rebecca was just telling me about her new boyfriend. Apparently, she's been keeping secrets too. Rebecca blushed. It's new. I didn't want to say anything until I was sure it was serious. And is it? I asked, settling into a chair beside her. I think so. His name is James. He's a structural engineer. We met at a conference in March. He's kind and funny, and he doesn't mind that I talk about building codes at dinner. Rebecca smiled. I'm bringing him to meet you next month. If that's okay? More than okay, I said. I look forward to it. As the afternoon wore into evening, we made dinner together. Grilled fish that Stephen caught that morning, vegetables from the farmer's market, salad from the garden I'd started maintaining at the cabin last month. The kitchen filled with laughter and good-natured arguments about who was the better cook. After dinner, we lit a fire in the fireplace and settled in the living room. Stephen pulled out his guitar, something he hadn't done in years, and played soft melodies while Rebecca and Lauren looked through old photo albums. Look at this one, Lauren said, holding up a picture of Stephen as a toddler, covered in mud. Was he always this messy? Always, I confirmed. Once he made soup out of dirt and leaves and tried to serve it to dinner guests. I was 3, Stephen protested. I didn't know better. You were 5, Rebecca corrected. And you absolutely knew better. You just didn't care. Their laughter warmed me more than the fire. This ordinary evening of family and stories and joy, this was what I'd fought for. What I'd risked everything to protect. Later, after everyone had gone to bed, I sat alone on the deck one more time, wrapped in a blanket, watching stars reflect on the dark water. My phone buzzed. A text from Julia Brennan. Final settlement came through. Dr. Green's assets liquidated. After legal fees, Stephen and Lauren will receive $287,000. Check being issued tomorrow. I smiled. Justice, it seemed, had a price tag after all. The money wouldn't erase the trauma, but it would give them security. A fresh start. The ability to prepare for their child without financial terror hanging over them. I thought about the past 6 months. The trials and testimonies, the therapy sessions and sleepless nights, the slow, painful work of healing. Green was in prison. Melissa was getting help. Hartley had taken a plea deal, 5 years in minimum security with mandatory psychiatric treatment. The other doctors Green had mentioned were under investigation. The fertility fraud network was being dismantled piece by piece, and my family was whole again, stronger than before. Forged by fire into something unbreakable. I thought about that night in October when I'd watched Stephen throw his dreams into the lake. How I'd pulled them back out. How I'd refused to let hope drown. Sometimes, the most important thing an older woman can do is simply refuse to give up. Refuse to be silenced. Refuse to let the young and powerful and corrupt steamroll over what's right. Age isn't weakness. It's experience. It's wisdom. It's the patient accumulation of knowledge and strength that comes from surviving decades of life's challenges. I'd used every skill I'd learned in 64 years to save my family. Technology skills from keeping up with grandchildren. Investigation skills from decades of solving household mysteries. Psychological insight from raising complicated humans. And most of all, the stubborn refusal to quit that comes from being a mother. The knowledge that you can do impossible things when the people you love need you. The cabin had become something new. Not just a place of memory, but a place of renewal. The lake that had swallowed my son's despair now reflected our hope. Tomorrow we'd return to our separate lives. Stephen and Lauren to their farmhouse and their careful pregnancy. Rebecca to her architecture and her new relationship. Me to my small house and my teaching project. But we'd return different, connected in ways we hadn't been before, honest with each other, trusting each other. A family, not just by blood, but by choice and effort and love. The cabin door opened. Stephen emerged with a blanket and sat beside me. Couldn't sleep? I asked. Didn't want to. This weekend has been perfect. I didn't want it to end. It doesn't have to end. This is just the beginning. Of what? Of everything. I gestured at the lake, the cabin, the stars above. Of the life you're going to build with Lauren. Of the child you're going to raise. Of the man you're going to become. Not the one who threw dreams away in despair, but the one who fought to get them back. Stephen was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I'm scared, Mom. Of failing. Of not being good enough. Of something going wrong. Good. Fear means you care. It means you understand how precious this all is." I took his hand. "But don't let fear paralyze you. Use it to make you careful, thoughtful, intentional. And remember, you're not doing this alone. You have Lauren. You have Rebecca. You have me. What would I do without you? Fortunately, you won't have to find out for a long time yet. I plan to be around to spoil my grandchildren terribly." Stephen laughed, then grew serious again. "Thank you. For everything. For saving us. For never giving up. For being exactly who we needed when we needed it most. That's what family does. We save each other." We sat together in comfortable silence, watching the lake shimmer under moonlight, both of us thinking about the journey that had brought us here. From terror to triumph. From secrets to honesty. From brokenness to healing. The cabin stood behind us, solid and enduring, a symbol of what we'd survived and what we'd become. And ahead of us lay the future. Uncertain, yes, but filled with hope. The kind of hope that can't be drowned. The kind that floats back to the surface again and again, no matter how many times you try to throw it away. The kind of hope that's worth fighting for. Always. Now tell me, what would you have done if you were in my place? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out the video on your screen right now. I'm sure it will surprise you.